Hi everyone, my name is Matt and I'm the youth and family pastor at Cornerstone Church in Marshfield. I'm here today with your Cornerstone Connection, a daily devotional. So I have the privilege today to take you to the book of Jeremiah and to chapter 29. And I say I have that privilege because what we're going to run into in this text, and I'm going to read for you from verse 1 all the way through verse 14. I have the privilege of leading you through this text and helping us set the record straight on a verse that is often quoted, and it's a great verse, but it's often plucked out of this text, and unfortunately it can be misinterpreted in a way, it could be misunderstood or misapplied, and so my desire today is to read not just that verse, but to read 14 verses for us to understand the context that verse sits in, and to really understand what that verse is talking about, what it means not just for the people back then, but for us today, those who follow Jesus today. And so, friends, join me, Jeremiah chapter 29. Let's start in verse 1, and here's what it says. This is the text of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent from Jerusalem to the surviving elders among the exiles, and to the priests, the prophets, and all the other people Nebuchadnezzar had carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. So right away, verse 1, we see the audience, right? This is the text that is written to those specific people that were taken captive by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, and they were taken into exile. And remember, this was not just an enemy that was coming and imposing his own will, but this is also part of the will of God and his discipline for his chosen people. Verse 2, this was after King Jehoiakim and the queen mother, the court officials, and the leaders of Judah and Jerusalem, the craftsmen and the artisans had gone into exile from Jerusalem. He entrusted the letter to Elasah, son of Shaphan, and to Gemariah, son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent to King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. And it said this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. So here we go. And I would encourage you to be looking right along with me. Here's what the Lord says to those people who are in exile in Babylon. Build houses and settle down. Plant gardens and eat what they produce. Marry and have sons and daughters. Find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage, so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there, do not decrease. Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. See God's hand in their exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Yes, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Do not let the prophets and diviners among you deceive you. Do not listen to the dreams you encourage them to have. They are prophesying lies to you in my name. I have not sent them, declares the Lord. Something kind of fun to note here is what God asked the people to do in Babylon, those who are in exile, is similar to what we saw God's people do when they're in Egypt before the Exodus that led them to the Promised Land. It's quite interesting, increasing in number and flourishing, right? Verse 10, here we go. This is what the Lord says. When 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my gracious promise to bring you back to this place. Verse 11, here it is, you guys. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Now let's keep reading. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity. I will gather you from all nations and places where I have banished you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back to the place from which I carried you into exile. This is such what I would call a beautiful love letter. And to kind of set the record straight on Jeremiah 29:11, where God says, I know the plans I have for you. I plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. What I'm not saying today is that we cannot cling to that verse as a promise from God. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we need to be careful in how we understand that verse. We need to also understand the context of that verse. It's really important for us to see that God's greatest plan and the greatest way that God's people prosper is in relationship with him. Did you notice that after he said that, he talked about how the people would pray to him and he would hear them and he would gather them. This is all about relationship. Too often we think, man, if God's plan is to prosper me, that means that God indeed knows every want of my heart and my mind and of my flesh. And so he will give me the spouse I want. He'll give me the children I want. He'll give me the house I want, the cars I want, the career I want. And so, and then all of a sudden, if that doesn't happen, then all of a sudden we begin to doubt the promises of God. So, friends, we need to consider this verse in context. We need to consider that it's always God's best plan is for you and I to have a relationship with him. The best way he can bless us is by giving us himself. You might go and read Matthew 5 and see the Beatitudes and what it looks like to be blessed. We are blessed to be in relationship with God. That is the greatest thing about the plan that God has for you. No matter if you're on top of a mountaintop right now, you're in a valley below, you're somewhere in between, man, you can still prosper because God is with you. Your prosperity is not based on your circumstances. Your prosperity and your blessing is based upon the presence of God. Have a great day, friends. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.